Oh, hi. Hello, and welcome to the Empowered Podcast. I just love being here with you. I love spending this time together. I love having this conversation. I know it's not a two-way conversation because you're not here with me, but I absolutely love receiving your messages. Thank you for sending them to me. I love hearing, I've actually had quite a few of you individuals who are listening who have sent me a message recently and said that you just binged on podcast episodes, which I love. And when I ask which ones you're loving, it's often ones that are from quite a while ago. And I just think that's really special. I think it's really incredible that you're taking the time for yourself to binge incredible content that's going to serve you and lift you higher and allow you to feel empowered and purposeful and capable. And I really, really, really love that you share it with me because, I mean, I can sit here and talk all day. I'm pretty good at it, but it's a lot more fun and a lot more fulfilling and satisfying for me to know that it's actually going somewhere. I mean, I can see the hundreds and hundreds of downloads of every episode that happens. I can see that in the back end, but it's much more fun to know who you are. So thank you for that. We are here having conversation about leadership, about what leadership is. And my intention of this theme is not to speak to leadership in a way you've heard before. Well, maybe you have, but not in a traditional societal way of what leadership is in terms of being, the leader of your company or the manager or the leader of your household even. I see this as even bigger than that. I see this conversation around leadership as leading all of humanity, leading all beings, leading change for this globe, leading change for our healthcare systems, leading change for our emotional well-being. We are living in a time where there's so much duality. There are people right now that are extreme racists, that are living and breathing and judging others based on the color of their skin. They have these beliefs in their mind and that they're holding in their body that another being is less than because of the color of their skin or their culture. To me, that's absolutely disgusting, and I don't understand it, but it's still a part of humanity. We're also living in a time when a large majority of the population is existing in fear that they will contract COVID-19 and existing in fear that they will pass it on to others. And so we go around and we see everyone wearing masks and we see people waiting outside stores and we see people's lives changed. This happened to me personally just the other day when my husband, he's okay, everything's fine, but he was in emergency and I went to go see him and I walked up to the door and a very kind man walked up with a mask on and said, "You can't come in here." And I asked him to check on my husband and let me know how he was doing and what position he was in, etc. And he came back out and said, "Yeah, you can't come in here. So you can sit in your car and wait for him until he's done." He had to get some x-rays done. So it was probably like an hour and a half. And I he was a very kind man and I knew that those were the rules that he was following. So I said, "Thank you." And as I walked away, I started crying. Now, my husband was fine. I knew he was going to be okay. That the emotion that rose was being denied being able to see my husband in the hospital. And it wasn't even a dire state. I knew he'd be fine. But then I started thinking about those of us right now that are not able to be with those that we love because of what's occurring. And so how I started this conversation was that some of us are in this deep, deep fear of death. That's what's occurring with what's happening with COVID-19 is we're terrified of death. And because as a society and a culture, we're afraid of it, we're doing everything possible to keep every single being alive, which, I mean, this is a controversial topic because, of course, we want our family members, our friends, our community members to be healthy and to be alive. But I think that I think there are ways that we can look at this as an evolutionary aspect, noticing that there is room for our culture and humanity to grow, that we don't have to fear death so deeply, and that if someone is going to pass, you sure as hell better believe that I would much rather them be surrounded by their family and loved ones than withering away in fear by themselves. It just, as you can tell, it fires me up to think that individuals are dying without being able to be with their family. Now, I think from what I know, I mean, I don't watch the news because it's not something that I want to engage with. I do think this has shifted a bit, and that if someone is, at least in Canada, that if someone is in dire state, that at least perhaps one family member might be able to be with them. But there's I'm going off topic of what I wanted to talk about, but there's some stuff happening, and it's creating a big duality and a divide in humanity, because there's also a fairly large population that believes that what is occurring is not necessary. And I kind of fall in the middle. It's kind of who I am. I've always been a bit of a peacekeeper. And I tend to fall somewhere in the middle of all the things. I like to observe everybody's views and opinions and beliefs and try to get an idea. And even coming back to the idea of racism, I don't have anybody in my life that I know is an outright racist. If I did, well, they probably wouldn't be in my life. But if I did come across that conversation, I would want to have the conversation to try to understand why. And this relates back to our topic of leadership for all, because if we are all energetically connected, which I deeply and with every cell in my body believe to be true, if this is true, when we are all energetically connected, if there's a belief that one of us holds, that means that that belief exists within the conscious collective. So this belief that another being is less than because of their color, because of the color of their skin, their culture, their background, whatever it might be, their socioeconomic status, if that belief exists in one person, it exists in the conscious collective, which means all of us have access to tap into that belief. Now, I'm assuming you and I and others that we surround ourselves with are not tapping into that belief. We have chosen a different belief. We have chosen to love all beings. We have chosen to see the greatest good for all. We have chosen to believe that all beings, they deserve to exist. The only one I struggle with there is mosquitoes, but it's a piece that I'm working on myself. But when you think about the fact that that belief exists in the collective, there is room for us to grow. And this is the way I look at it, okay? So let's say that we've got all these human beings doing their things, having their thoughts, having their emotions. If we could create a tipping point where the mass majority of human beings have access to things like meditation and mindfulness and trusting and releasing their emotions instead of letting them, play out in their life constantly in inappropriate situations or uncomfortable situations. If we live in less fear, if we trust ourselves, if we believe that we are here as pillars of love and our purpose is to spread and be love and light for others, the more of us that can take on beliefs like that, insert your own wording if my wording doesn't work for you, but the more that we can allow that to be true, that we create a mass majority that can believe that know that feel that, then when I think about the conscious collective, my belief, go ahead and correct me if you think this is wrong, but my belief is that if we create a tipping point where the majority are connecting into that light, the majority are connecting into that peace and that calm and that purpose, that there will be a lot less energy put into those with different beliefs in terms of the cruel beliefs, the hatred, the fear, the doubt, the destruction on purpose. This is my belief. And this is why it's really important to me, not only that I do this work myself and not only that I grow a business to support my family and myself, but that, you and I have these conversations, that you get access to these tools, that you do this work. By the way, for those of you, all of you incredible beings who are either watching this video or listening to this podcast, if you've been listening or watching for a while and you're not implementing any of the tools that I'm sharing with you, if you're not shifting your thinking in any way, can you take a moment and ask yourself why? Why are you willing to consume this content and not create a change in your life? Why are you not allowing yourself to utilize what you have at your fingertips? Why are you not allowing yourself to create change? Because I'm not talking for no reason. I told you before, yeah, I can talk all day, sure, but I'm not doing it for no reason. I'm doing it for the greatest good of all. And I believe that I have a voice that for whatever reason, some people want to listen to. I have a message that some people want to receive. Amazing. I will keep delivering that. That is very important to me because I believe that in doing so, you will create the change in your life that you need and desire. And when that change is created, you support others in creating that change. And they support others in creating that change. And they support others in creating that change. And then we hit our tipping point. And that I want to be a part, that's what I stand for. I'm a part of that evolution. I'm a part of that revolution. We all have the ability to love. We all have the ability to detach from the situation that we're in and the judgment of it and the ego around it. We have that ability, but we get so freaking caught up in the crap. We get caught up in money. We get caught up in buying things. We get caught up in arguments and being right. We get caught up in body image. We get caught up in all of these freaking things that, if you think about it, I like to refer to this often in my own mind. If you were on your deathbed, if you knew that you were dying in the next few days, would any of that matter to you? If the answer is no, then why does it matter so much now? I've brought that up with some friends in the past, and their response is, yeah, well, what are you going to do? Spend all your money right now, live as though you don't have tomorrow? And I mean, I think that that's a really extreme way to look at it. And no, I don't think I think we have to find the harmony and the balance. And I think that's the thing, is our society and our culture is just so extreme. It's like if I say to you, you were a pillar of light and love, there are so many people that want to just say, fuck you, because that triggers them, because they think that it's too easy, because they think that I'm just, out playing in a field of daisies and I'm not concrete enough and I'm not grounded. And it's because they're so anchored in the physical realm. They're so anchored in all of the possessions that we have and the status that we get. And that's what for so long has allowed a person to feel important. That's how they've gotten their validation. That's how they felt seen, acknowledged, and heard. But it's changing. It's changing. And we get to choose to be a part of that change. We get to choose to, yes, of course, we're going to save our money for the future. And yes, of course, we're going to think about the earth instead of just like consuming everything that we want. And we're also going to allow ourselves to live for today and know that tomorrow might not be here. And know that every day that we exist, that we breathe, that we wake up, that we live is a gift. We don't treat it like a gift, myself included. I get so caught up in these things and I really have to catch myself. Even just the other day, I had an experience that I won't tell you all the details of because I think I'm still processing it. And it's really important to me to only share once I've actually processed something fully. But I was in a social setting with really, really good friends, people that I love deeply. And the conversation was based around, the physical realm and physical things. And I allowed myself to get kind of wrapped up in that conversation. And I was, playing my role. I just kind of observe and listen to people's opinions and share when it feels right. And I came home and felt really weird. And my husband, Luke, came over and said, "How you doing, babe?" And he's used to me being quite emotional, as I am. But I was overcome with emotion and this deep, deep feeling of inadequacy, because I didn't feel like I fit in that conversation. I didn't feel like I could really contribute to that conversation. And the feeling was very strong of inadequacy. And of course, my amazing husband supported me and reminded me that that's not true. But when you're in the emotion, it doesn't matter what someone says. And now, after having a few days to reflect and journal and do some meditation with it, I've come to realize, and like I said, I'm still processing, but I've come to realize the reason I felt inadequate is because I was trying to fit into something that I no longer believe in. And it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to fit into something that you don't believe in. It's really hard. And it goes against you. And that's what I was feeling. But it was coming up as inadequacy because in the past, that was what I did believe. So there was a part of me that was still connected to that. And I'm sure that you can relate to this in some way. I know a lot of clients that I work with, when they start stepping more into their own spiritual awakening, when they start, coming through that awakening crossroads and start believing in themselves and seeing what's possible, when they start shifting their energy, it's as though their relationships change and sometimes friendships change. And I've personally gone through that. If you haven't checked out my YouTube channel for the Friday morning show, I have a bunch of, like 20, 30-minute shows that I did, I think earlier this year. I mean, no, I think it was in 2019 that I did them. And one of them, I talk about going through a friendship breakup, basically. And it had a lot to do with how I was energetically expanding. And sometimes this happens, and especially for my clients, they're like, I don't want to have those conversations anymore. I don't want to spend time with those people anymore. I don't want to be in that environment anymore. And I want you to know that's okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean they're a bad person at all. It just means that you're not energetically compatible anymore. But all of this being said, leadership. I really, truly, deeply believe, truly, madly, deeply, little Savage Garden, truly, madly, deeply. I believe that it is our duty, our job, our responsibility to do our own work. And when it comes to leadership, I don't see that as being the one that makes the most money. I don't see that as being the one that has the biggest influence. I don't see that as being the one that has the greatest following. However you might see leadership, I don't see it that way. I see it as being the most dedicated to your own expansion to the point that you get out of your own way. Because all of us have this incredible gift within ourselves. We have this ability to offer healing to ourselves and to others. We all have it, all of us. And the reason that some of us experience it and some of us don't is some of us have just spent more time trying to reduce and release our blocks, reduce and release our resistance. I was listening to Abraham Hicks today. And one of the things that Abraham Hicks was saying was, if you can live in a state of non-resistance, if you can release all of your resistance, your natural element is to be in a state of joy and bliss. That's who we are at the core, but we just have all of these layers blocking our ability to experience that and to live that and to be that. And so to me, leadership is you doing your due diligence of releasing your resistance. And don't think that this is you're a bad leader or a bad mother or a bad business owner if you've still got some shit you're working through. Please don't go there. Like I told you just the other day, I was dealing with deep, deep feelings of inadequacy. And that's a part of being a human. And so leadership to me is really about being dedicated and focused to that being your priority, to you, your expansion, your evolution, your growth being a priority. And in doing so, knowing, and whether you have felt this or you know this or not, hear it from me now. When you start growing and expanding energetically, emotionally, spiritually, you can't help but help others. It is just in our DNA. It is a part of who we are. It just happens. And it happens with flow and fluidity and a sense of freedom. It's not hard. It just occurs. And this is our natural state of being. And this is how I believe that we need to step up in our leadership together, where it's not about, I've already said, it's not about having the money. It's not about having the things. It's not about having the influence. It's about being the best freaking version of ourselves that we can, dedicating to our expansion, to our growth, to our evolution, and knowing that in doing so, it is supporting our gift of being of service to others. Whether that's through a business, whether that's through teaching your children what it means to love themselves, whether that's through spending time with seniors who are alone and have no family, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters who you're being. And I want to surround myself with beings who are willing to awaken, who are willing to see their truth, who are willing to see beyond the resistance, who are willing to matter to themselves. So if that's you, hi, I'm Deanna. Do you want to be friends? And if that's not you, consider why. Ask yourself why. If you're feeling resistance to everything I'm saying, that's okay. But just be curious. Ask yourself why. What do I think that is the opposite? What am I feeling? What does that resistance feel like in my body? This is really important work, you guys. And it goes beyond, this was the sweetest thing. When I had a bit of my breakdown the other day and I was talking to Luke about it, He said, babe, you don't even know if your work is actually for this lifetime. You don't even know if you're just prepping and priming yourself for future lifetimes. And, he doesn't normally talk like that. And it made me smile and made me realize that, yeah, you're right. I am here doing everything that I can, that I feel intuitively guided to do so. And I will continue to do that until I die. And maybe there's only so far I can get in this lifetime and it's really for the future. I don't know. And maybe not. Maybe this is the lifetime that I deeply, truly, fully support humanity in the way that my God-given gifts, the way that the divine sees me. I don't know. But I know that you matter to me. I know that your ability to feel good, it matters to me. I get so frustrated thinking about the fact that so many of us are suffering in isolation. And I don't even mean because of COVID. I don't even mean, well, I just mean, energetically and metaphorically, we are feeling isolated. We are feeling alone, and it's not necessary. You don't have to feel alone. You don't have to isolate yourself to go through what you're going through. You don't have to pretend you're the only one who deals with depression. You don't have to pretend you're the only one that feels insecure when you wear shorts. You don't have to pretend you're the only one that feels inadequate at times, because I just shared with you that I do too. So that's what's important to me, is that all of us start to see ourselves as each other. And for those of you who attended the Empowered Woman Conference in November of 2019 and potentially will attend whenever I'm able to do them again, future conferences, that's part of my core values that I bring to it, is that I want women to share a lot of stories, because it's in stories that we get to see each other in each other's eyes. And what's fascinating to me in holding space and bringing individuals together is that one woman can share a story that is completely different than everybody else's life, and yet everyone else can relate to it. Everyone else automatically starts putting themselves in their shoes, or taking elements of that story and putting them into their life and seeing how it's the same. It's like we want to see how similar we are. We want to see how connected we are. We want that desperately within, but our ego separates us. Our ego isolates us. Our ego tells us that we are not one, that we are not connected, that we are the only one who has ever experienced this. And that isolation is devastating. And that's where leadership comes in. Even if you're willing just to share the truth of how you're feeling, you tell the truth that you're having a tough time, that you're struggling right now, that you have been feeling depressed, that you're not sure how you're going to make it through. Even just sharing that openly, and not from a place of trying to get external validation and love from others, but from a place of genuinely wanting to share your experience of life. That's what helps us rise. That's what helps us all see each other in each other. And when we can see ourselves in someone else's darkness, it becomes much easier to see ourselves in someone else's light. And that's what I want for us. All of us. All of us. So that's that. I'm going to leave that there. There's some super fun interviews that I have been doing recently for this podcast that will be coming out soon. I'm really excited to share them with you. I also have been adding a few other things to my YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this podcast, if you haven't gone to YouTube to check out either the podcast that is on YouTube, every episode is filmed and put on YouTube, or some of the other videos that I put up there, go check it out. There's lots of resources. And if you're not in the Empowered Woman Collective on Facebook, come hang out with us. I've been bringing some really incredible leaders and leaders, like strong, spiritual, esoteric, energetic leaders into that community. And we've been having conversation. They've been sharing their gifts. It's been really great. So if you're not in the Empowered Woman Collective on Facebook, come join it. It's my free public Facebook group. And one final little plug, November 2020, Feminine Warrior, my debut book, hopefully the first of many. I've had a vision and a dream of myself being an author for years. I have this beautiful vision of me writing my book at a cafe in Paris. I don't know why, but it's there in my head, sitting on one of those beautiful little um, tables and chairs that are out on the street and overlooking all the people walking by and tippity tappity writing my book. Oh. Anyways, that's for the future. But for right now, Feminine Warrior. This book is a masterpiece. I don't often allow myself to really, really anchor into how proud I am of the work that I do. But because a book is such a big undertaking, because I have to read through it so many times for the editing process, because I've been pouring so much energy and time into getting the cover exactly in a way that feels energetically as an expression of the book. There's a lot of personal stories in it. There's a lot of like channeled writing where I was just in this incredible spiritual space and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. I'm letting myself feel proud. I'm letting myself feel proud of this book and the impact that it may have on you. I It's making me feel emotional right now even thinking about it. This is truly from my heart. So and I wrote it very much the way that I speak. So if you enjoy this podcast, you'll love the book. It comes out in November. I think we're going to do like a pre-launch in September. So you can pre-order the book. And I'm probably going to do something a little special for everyone who pre-orders. So just keep your eyes on my Facebook or my Instagram, or I'm sure I'll be sharing it here on the podcast. So keep hanging out here. But officially, the book comes out November 2020 called Feminine Warrior. And I'm so excited. And it is now mid-August. I've been planning my virtual book launch because now in COVID times, we do virtual things. And it's going to be epic, like really good. I have some really incredible things lined up. I have some women that I want to either speak or perform in some way. I have a video to share with you that I will not be sharing with anyone until that point. And it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. I can't say anything more. That's it. So come to my virtual book launch. I don't even know when it will be, sometime around November, October. Come hang out with me in the collective. Let's just hang out. Let's have some more conversation around this. Okay. You are a leader. You already are. You have people looking up to you right now that you don't even realize, that you don't even think about. So ask yourself, how can you show up more fully in your truth, in your authenticity, and as an empowered woman today? Mwah. I love you. I'll see you soon.